And welcome back to Hannity. He is one of the few people in Hollywood willing to speak out against President Obama. And during the Republican National Convention this summer, movie icon Clint Eastwood made headlines with his harsh critique of the administration. Now, earlier, I had a chance to talk with him about the upcoming election and the state of the country. And just like his speech at the RNC, Eastwood was not mincing words about President Obama. And joining us now, Hollywood star himself, the one and only, I guess, star of the Republican National Committee as well, and that's Clint Eastwood. Clint, welcome to the program. It's great to finally meet you.
Good to be with you. Good to be with you, Sean.
I appreciate it. You said you wanted to make 3 points when you went to the Republican National Convention. You said, one, you wanted to point out not everyone is left in Hollywood. You made that point. You talked about, Obama had made a lot of broken promises. And then the biggest point, if somebody doesn't do a good job, it's okay to let him go. Tell us how you got involved in this.
Well, they asked me if I wanted to come back there and be involved with the convention. I didn't know exactly how to be involved. And most of the people are speaking pretty much a scripted kind of thing. And I just felt that maybe I just talk a little bit about being about things just from the heart. I mean, things the average citizen wonders about, and wondering why we are at this stage we are with the economy, why we're at this stage we are of the world.
You know, I tried to warn people about who I thought Barack Obama was. We did a lot of work back in 2007 and 2008. Kind of came out of nowhere. Never did a big deal in his life. Voted president a lot as a state senator. No real accomplishment in the U.S. Senate. And so I looked into his background. He's a community organizer. He's with Acorn, hangs out with some pretty radical people, Jeremiah Wright, Bill Ayers, et cetera. So I try to warn people a little bit. You kind of summed up how I feel now 4 years after him being president. You said he's the greatest hoax ever perpetrated on the American people. I think this story is going to be written, and you'll laugh, but I don't think, for some reason, people got caught up in 2008, and it seems that many are still caught up today. Your reaction?
Well, there are people, and a lot of people who feel dissatisfied for voting for him last time are afraid to admit that they maybe made a mistake. So it's better to be overly defensive and just say, well, I'm voting for him again. I just tried to give people, when I was at the RNC, the idea that maybe they should think about other alternatives and even, rather than just voting a party line. And, of course, a lot of people who are on the Republican side who voted for him last time will probably have regrets. But if you have regrets, think about somebody else, and somebody who's offered something else, like a business background. Governor Romney has a great business background. He's extremely well educated. He has several degrees from Harvard, and he's including business and including a law degree. He's just kind of a perfect guy for the job. And I think along with Paul Ryan, you got a great team that's out there ready to go. And I think they can correct a lot of the problems that we've had. I don't know. I think it's kind of, I hate to get too simplistic, but I also don't want to complicate it. It's just a certain feeling you have within yourself that it's time to speak up. I have nothing against this fella that's in. I have nothing against any of the people on the staff. I find myself feeling very resentful about this whole thing in Benghazi. That's been kind of a tragedy that should have never happened, or it should have been an attempt. All you can ask when there's a crisis like that is to make an attempt. That's the American way.
You know, the thing that concerns me the most, I've been really blessed in this country, and I'm just reading a lot about you before the interview. I know you feel the same way about you and your career and your life, and I followed your whole career, and I'm a big fan. It really bothers me. You know, my parents grew up in the Depression, to see that right now in America, 1 in 6 Americans are in poverty. 25 million Americans unemployed, 49 million Americans on food stamps, and in 4 years, $6 trillion in new debt, which we're going to go bankrupt. Mathematically, it's not going to add up. I think the thing that really grabbed me when you spoke at the Republican convention is towards the end of your speech. I enjoyed all of it, but this really grabbed me when you said, we own this country. And you went on to say that, politicians, they're employees of ours. And you went on to then go that, it's important for you to realize that, hey, if somebody doesn't do the job, you can let them go. So, for some reason, there seems to be an emotional attachment to President Obama. Why is that such an important thing for you to say?
Well, I just think it's important. The American people deserve. They deserve the best, and because they are the best. And I've been lucky in my career to have their support, and I know a lot of other people have too in other lines of work. But they deserve a really straightforward talk. A lot of it, but a lot of what we've seen recently has been not straightforward. And of course, when you have political campaigns, naturally people are insulting one side or the other. But some of it's really kind of gone to extremes. I mean, you're accusing one side of killing people and all that sort of thing. And then, of course, when you watch the debate, like in the second debate, for instance, there was a big, the president got very uptight and said, I take exception to this if you're insinuating that anything went wrong. Well, when you start overreacting, too, that's usually a good sign that you're overselling the point. If you're really satisfied with your position on something, you just say, hey, you just very calmly present something. But if you get in a tizzy over it, then all of a sudden you go, okay, I'm suspicious here.
And coming up, more of my exclusive one-on-one interview with Clint Eastwood. And welcome back to Hannity. And here is more of my exclusive interview with Clint Eastwood. Let me ask you, Hollywood does have this image of being left. You referred to it early on in your speech. They're all left-wingers out there, left of Lenin, which I thought was a pretty funny line. You mentioned earlier some creative ideas. I call them Learjet limousine liberals. They fly around in private jets, and they lecture us about our SUVs. They keep talking about redistribution, but when you look at their tax return, I wonder how much money they're giving to charity, et cetera. Why is it never used to be this way? Why is Hollywood so left in your view?
I don't know. I think just the nature. I think coming off of the House Un-American Activities actions in the early 50s, I think caused everybody to move to kind of a left position. I think most people, when they're young, are more idealistic. I know I was. Most people are much more liberal when they're young and growing up, and then after a while they realize that. Well, for me, it was because I found a lot of my liberal friends who I still have great friendship with, but I found that they weren't that liberal. So I thought, wait a second, maybe everybody, maybe there's another way to go. But Hollywood, there is a group of people in Hollywood that are conservative, but by the nature of the word itself, they're just reticent to speak out. And they're reticent because they feel that they'll maybe lose work or they'll be chastised in some way for having political views. I think maybe you had somebody on your program, this young lady that somebody was giving a hard time to, threatening to not hire because she was coming out for Mitt Romney, and that kind of stuff is inexcusable. But there are people that think that way.
Yeah, that's Stacey Dash,
unfortunately,
the actress. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I know a lot of people who'd love to hire her.
Yeah. Well, maybe she'll be in the next Clint Eastwood film. Let me just play for you because this is going to be one of the most watched ads and one of the biggest buys in this campaign cycle, and it's the ad that you did for American Crossroads. Let's roll the tape.
In the last few years, America's been knocked down. 23 million people can't find full-time work. And we borrow $4 billion every single day, much of it from China. When someone doesn't get the job done, you got to hold them accountable. Obama's second term would be a rerun of the first, and our country just couldn't survive that. We need someone who could turn it around fast, and that man is Mitt Romney. There's not much time left, and the future of our country is at stake.
American Crossroads is responsible for the content of this advertising.
The thing that really grabbed me about that is, you don't have to do this. You're Clint Eastwood. You really feel, I kind of feel the same way, so I think I'm identifying with you. But I sensed in that ad, you really feel that the country we grew up in, the land of opportunity, is in jeopardy. Am I reading you right? The reason you got involved in that, you didn't have to get involved in this.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. I just felt one day, I tell you, I know some people who we've sit around and we kept complaining, but we never ever step up and do anything. And I finally know some friends, and I've got to give John Voight a pat on the back, because I was sitting with him and a couple other people, so we were commiserating about the situation with the economy and everything. And he said, well, why doesn't anybody in Hollywood ever speak up? And I thought, yeah, he's right. He's right. We are kind of chicken. We're sitting around, kind of going, well, let somebody else do it. And so then all of a sudden one day they asked me to be on the RNC and go there. And they said, well, what are you going to say? And I said, I don't know what I'm going to say. We'll just say it. And so I'll just say something that I mean. And that's all there is to it. And the chair idea, that just came out of the air. I was sitting there and the guy behind the stage said, here, you want to sit down? And I said, no, but why don't you take that out and sit it next to the podium? He says, oh, you want to sit down? I said, no, just put it there. And so that idea just came out as we were doing it. So it was probably, at the time I thought, that was really stupid. Why did I do that? But then afterwards I thought, people started coming up and saying, well, that was fun. And maybe a little fun was what I was looking for. I don't know.
I've watched.
It got a lot of people bugged at the content.
Oh, absolutely!
I
was in the room.
Good too, because yeah. Well, that's good. That's if it makes the right people angry, then good. That'll wake them up a little bit.
Well, we really appreciate you being with us. I've been a fan a long time. I'm glad you're outspoken. I think you're making a difference. I think the idea that you tell people if somebody doesn't do a good job, it's okay to fire him. It's telling people that maybe believed in Barack Obama. He had 4 years, and we're not better off. So thank you so much, Clint Eastwood, for being on the program, and hope you'll come back again.
My pleasure, Sean.
And coming up